Good morning, afternoon, and evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another NerdTube Highly Illogical podcast. I am joined by my Trekkies in arms. Jefferson, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome sauce. And then down below, we have got a new participant here this week, although he is a version of a previous participant. We have the Mirror Mage. I can't introduce you as the Golden Glasses Award winning because you're not. You're the Mirror Mage.
I'm the Golden Glasses award losing mirror mage. Uh, there were no soccer count votes.
That's true.
This one won Debatemania though.
Oh, really? Oh, those alternate timelines. So, today, gentlemen, we are, and we might be joined by one or two others later on down the line. I know at least one of them is going to try to join. I'll leave that as a surprise for later. But today we are talking about behind the scenes controversies of Star Trek. We've all heard of them. We all know them, especially honestly in this crew. We know there's a lot of controversy behind the scenes with this crew. That's why I wore this shirt for the original series. Um, so yeah, I mean, Star Trek has just had a plethora of behind the scenes controversies, whether it's Rick Berman and his treatment of women, or Gene Roddenberry in general. And actually, that's one that I want to start with, that I want to talk about, that I did not know until I researched this topic more. And maybe I'm just in the dark about this, but did you guys know that prior to Star Trek, the original series airing, Nichelle Nichols had an affair with Gene Roddenberry?
It's not an affair technically though.
I thought that he was married when this happened.
Majel was, by most accounts, she was aware of it and a part of it. It was a polyamorous relationship actually.
Oh, was
Really?
it? I had no idea. That's what I'm saying. I was reading about this, but I thought that Gene was still with his first wife. When did they get divorced? I didn't. It didn't. When I
Now
was.
he might have had the affair with the first wife, but I know that when Majel was involved, it was open, like it was known, sort of thing.
I do. I do recall that that there was a thing. For some reason, I thought it was just a rumor. I didn't know that it was, like a substantiated known thing. But that that kind of blows my mind.
Mhm.
That really surprises me. Now, was this this was before the show? Did you say it was before Star Trek, or it was?
I believe it was before Star Trek. From what from what my notes I took here from reading, um, I should start supporting. Yeah, it looked. I think it was at least prior to the beginning of production. So yeah, it was before Star Trek started.
Uh, that's awkward, I would think.
I mean,
And
I hate
see,
to say it about Nichelle Nichols, but I'm like, did maybe she do it for a career opportunity? Maybe I don't know.
Bold accusation.
yeah, and to be perfectly honest with you, I would say, um, I want to say no to
Okay, and I
that.
mean that's totally fair. I just was like, I mean, in Hollywood, you can see that, like like you, but it would be funny because it's like normally it's the higher up executive that's taking advantage of the lower. What if it was Nichelle Nichols trying to get her way into like the part, like not favoritism because it's not like she
Mhm.
didn't deserve it, but just like like I wonder if it was kind of like a way to get her foot in the door to say.
Right, and I'm hoping that that wasn't the case, and that's what
Me
makes
too.
these things really, really ugly when you're getting involved with someone that is on a coworker. They say that thing, and I know that we've probably all had that job or known people that were worked together. Either we're already married, working together, or met each other at work, et cetera, et cetera. And you can just run into a whole lot of issues with that. And we talked about that. I think it was last week or the week before
Last
live
week.
stream. Yeah, it was last week. Just about the issues with having a relationship with someone you work with. And we were talking about Riker and Troy in the context of them having a relationship when you've got uh, a superior and subordinate type situation. And with this, with the with Gene Roddenberry and Nichelle Nichols, you still have the same problem. That can raise a lot of issues because now you're talking about there was already a lot of how do I want to say, I guess a lot of favoritism talks or feelings going around with Majel Barrett being on the cast. I'm sure she very well deserved and earned the position, but the problem is that when you have that, you're always going to be questioned as to just like you're questioning, is that relationship the reason why she had a role?
And I just want to be very clear. I had no problems with Nichelle Nichols playing Uhura. Like, I thought she played that part wonderfully.
Yeah.
No, even in the 60s as a black woman on television, like she did a fantastic job. So I mean, even if it wasn't opportunity, I mean, she took it and ran with it. You know what I mean? Like, and she did a great job. I mean, she is now synonymous with, female, heck, even just African American, people on television, not even just African American females. So,
right.
That's, and you know what? I mean, as I said, and if her having a fling with Gene Roddenberry, whether it was, consensual or not consensual, what's the word I'm looking for?
Ethical.
What
mutually beneficial?
Usually ethical is the
like whether it was or not, I'm okay with it, because just the way that, as I said, I mean, it's not like it was under shady circumstances. And you kind of bring up Jefferson. What I was thinking was like, okay, it does kind of bring up that kind of not moral dilemma, but like that dilemma of, here's this executive producer, and then here's this actress who is under her or under him technically on the cast. And that also goes for Majel Barrett. See, I always get the name wrong. But and that was actually the next one I was going to get into, but let's finish up with this one. But so Mira, do you have anything to add, or Jefferson, were you finished? Sorry.
Just the one last thing I wanted to put in is that favoritism, or at least the appearance of favoritism, can be very toxic, and I think is a very risky kind of thing. I know if there's any controversy that you don't want to spread or have going around through the workplace is, oh, this person is just here because they're sleeping with the boss.
Yeah. That is, I mean, that is a bad juju thing, especially if you're a supervisor. So, Mage?
No, you definitely don't want it being a realm of possibility where you could be accused of pooping where you eat, especially when you're on a project that big. But, people are going to say what they're going to say. And just, like I said pre-game, I don't know much about much of this stuff, so sorry.
No, it's fine. As I said, doing research for this topic, I learned a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, as I said, I've got notes here, and yeah, as I said, do you guys, okay, so, I mean, with that one, yeah, I mean, I just thought that one was kind of shocking when I read it, and as I said, I had never heard it, and, I mean, I'm sure, as I said, I'm sure it seemed like you guys knew about it, but, like, and whether it's controversial or not, I was under the assumption that, from what I read, that Gene Roddenberry was still married, like, to his first wife, I thought, but I don't remember when they got divorced, so that's why I thought it might have been controversial, but it's still, as we were kind of leading to, it is kind of controversial in the workplace if somebody's getting favoritism. So kind of still works, right? Yeah, right.
It does,
right.
Absolutely. Just the fact that it didn't register here is just a sign of how out of it I am.
How mirror mage you are.
We
Normally
all know
our
the
mage
real
is sharp as a tack and on top of it, but mirror mage,
yeah,
he comes unprepared. He doesn't
unprepared
care.
and is like a blunt force object.
Now, I hadn't remembered a whole lot of the details, but when you said that, it wasn't news to me. It was like, yeah, I knew of that.
Yeah, you learn. Yeah, I was very shocked. So the other one, well, and I guess we already kind of hit on this, was Majel Barrett. I mean, obviously there was favoritism there, her playing number one and then getting the boot, which it says in the research that I did. Yes, Mage has shed his winter coat. By the way, Daniel Vance, welcome to the stream.
Good to see you, sir.
But what was I saying? Majel Barrett, like, again, like, she was number one. Now, from what I read, the executives just did not like her acting. I don't remember from the cage. It was in the cage. I think she was number one. And
the pilot,
yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah, the pilot. Yeah. So it's like, I don't remember it being terrible, but I don't remember it being.
She was stiff, but it was the character, and Rebecca Romaine has done such a beautiful job recreating it. She is Una Chin Riley. Like, she lives, eats, and breathes it. To me, it's wonderful. I find that number one's the best part of that pilot.
There were a couple problems there. One was, keep in mind, we're talking about the 60s. One issue you had was having a woman that was that close to a position of power. She's a first officer on the ship. The second one being that that rank, that position, also not sexualized. So that kind of was going to be, that was kind of a tough sell for the studios. Is, okay, you have a woman that is too high in the rank and she's not being sexualized. Like, why do you have her? What is the expectation here?
What's the point of having a woman on the bridge if you're not putting her in a cat suit? I mean, I'm so glad by the 90s we got out of that whole thing, like 80s and 90s.
All
we
right,
were out
Rick
of that
B.
ride.
Okay, Rick B.
I'm telling you, that's Rick Berman. I'm telling you.
No, that's Rick B.
No, I know. It's Rick Berman. Like,
he is. That's the same exact person.
That's why he hates Kurtzman so much, because he doesn't
it's our good friend. It's our good friend Rick Berman.
Yeah, good friend Rick Berman. Okay, so I mean, with that one though, I just that was kind of along the same lines. I wanted to talk about Majel. I mean, she went on to play obviously Nurse Chapel, obviously Luoxana Troy, and I love Luoxana Troy. Like, I get people's annoyance with the character, but that's kind of the point. Like, her and antagonizing Jean-Luc. Like, there was only one other person I feel that could antagonize Jean-Luc like that, and that was Q. So it's like,
and it was both. He just hates being loved and doted on.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that was the main thing.
Yeah, but I felt like she grew into it, and even with Odo though, like you see what happens when.
That episode's beautiful, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's might be her finest hour as a character. When they let like some really good writers get a hold of that character and it not just be like, ha ha, she's a predator.
That's gonna be on. Luoxana Troy, ha ha, she's a predator. Like that.
No, there's no subtlety to some of the TNG writing for her, but she's such a beautiful character for it. But it's like people find it problematic now, and make that predator accusation. Like, it's something that gets thrown around.
Problem people have with it now?
She's too aggressive, and like Jean-Luc is obviously not into it, but she keeps pressing the issue.
Name the incel saying this. I want their names. I want their addresses. I want their phone numbers.
The incels. No, the incels are just bad because women in real life don't do that to them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. When you don't get that kind of attention and don't get that kind of pursuit, of course you're going to complain about it and say that it was a problem. Okay, so let me qualify that with this. Now, I am not so naive as to say that is okay as long as the other person is attractive. And I'm going to say it again. That is okay as long as the other person is attractive. And that double standard is out there. We all know this.
Oh yeah, the number one, the most important thing about putting yourself out there is being attractive.
Yes, because
A radio host, or and I don't know if that's like a something somebody else said, but like a radio host in my area like said that one time, and I'm like, oh my god, he's so right.
Yep. Step 1, be attractive. Step 2, don't be unattractive.
Well, and you know the biggest.
That's why we're all here.
Yeah, right. I mean, we're also attractive. That's what you mean, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Wait a minute. No. You are unattractive, Mirror Mage, because our Mage O'Rage is a stud. So
no, Mirror Mage is confident, whereas your normal pleb mage is completely unconfident in himself.
I've got a face for radio and a voice for comic books.
Says the best voice we've had on this channel.
I know, right? Speaking of which, okay, Daniel Vance, he says there's probably an episode with Luoxana that I've never watched. She was Trek jumping the shark for me. That is an interesting pun on words. And guess who it is? It's our buddy Rick Berman.
We summoned him, man. We summoned you. Welcome.
I think
we said it 3 times.
Yep. Good evening. He says, I'm extremely attractive, and he's painting his nails. So very, very good. Very good. Whatever gets you in the mood.
Oh my.
Oh my. Yeah, and you know, I get that. Like, but here's the thing. It's like with John Luke, it's like he never he clearly wasn't into it, quote unquote. But he was never like, and I mean, this was just him being a good host on his ship, and Luoxana was just being a very alpha personality. I mean, I feel like it was good I feel like it was just done for comedy like that. You know?
It was played for comedy back then because you didn't think about it back then. But if you like really want to overanalyze it, she was an ambassador. She's in a position of power, and he can't say like, "Yo, you're making me uncomfortable," without causing a scene and a diplomatic incident with Beta Z.
So we're doing controversies on screen as well as behind the scenes.
I guess I've read enough online discussions where I'm just like playing devil's advocate, I guess, at this point. I'm pointing out what their argument is. I'm not saying I agree with it at all. I feel like it's overanalyzing. You are 100% allowed to
be devil's advocate, you know?
Yeah, nothing wrong
I play that sometimes too. Like, I don't believe something, but I'll do it. I'll play devil's advocate sometimes.
Like, that's their argument, and I'm not sure. I mean, depends on your point of view how much weight it holds, I suppose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, and you're right. I don't know, but you know. So Bajal Barrett, anything else? You got, you know. I mean, besides the fact that yes, there might have been some favoritism there and whatever. I mean, we've already talked about that, but you know, and the controversy of her strong character.
I think everyone's worked with the boss's wife or the boss's kid, and you know that's why you've got the job. It's that nepotism.
You know what? Luoxana is the female version of Pepe Le Pew. There we go.
Yes,
that's what I've seen that comparison before. Actually,
have you really?
In those arguments,
really?
Yeah.
Damn,
wow.
I thought I had something there. Damn it. Okay, so any other controversies you guys want to bring up? I mean, I've got more. I just want to open the floor up if you guys want to bring any up. Or
there is one that I did want to bring up, and it's kind of cheating because I know I brought this up previously, but it's probably one of the ones that is dare I say one of the more known controversies, and one that had both the out of universe and in universe effect to it. And there was a controversy between Rick Berman and Terry Farrell.
Rick Berman, you're in the chat. What do you have to say for yourself?
Why did you run off Jadzia?
So Rick Berman, as we know, was just an asshole. I'm going to go out and say it. Rick Berman, big time asshole. And it really, really showed with his treatment of Terry Farrell when it came to the contract negotiations to coming into the 7th season. So the 7th season was known it was going to be the last season of DS9. That was of no surprise to anyone. I'm not sure how early on in the run that it was known it would be the 7th season, whether it was by season 4 or 5 or something. I don't know, but it was not a surprise. So your actors need to find work. They need to have something lined up because that's their livelihood. And Terry Farrell had the opportunity to be on this Ted Danson show called Becker. Well, what she wanted to do and how she wanted to try to work this with Berman to, one, satisfy her commitment with the show, and two, look out for her own livelihood, which there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that that's a negative. It would be worked into the story that her decreased time on DS9 as Jadzia would be written as Jadzia receiving command of a starship during the Dominion War. So she was still there. She was still out there. She's part of the war. The whole thing made complete sense, totally plausible. The writers were like, perfect, that's on board. Yeah, we can go with that. But in Berman's ever infinite asshole wisdom, said no. It is a complete commitment to this show, this last season. You are completely at our/my disposal, and that's that. So what you're doing is you're putting a person in a position where they have to think, okay, do I want to miss the opportunity to be on a show that could go for however many number of seasons? Who knows? I mean, how many seasons did Becker go for?
I don't know.
I'll look it up.
I'm pulling that up right now. Okay, so it went from 98 to 2004.
Six seasons.
So yeah, good 6 seasons, which is it's good. That's very good.
That's
so
you was on DS9. So
you want to have someone miss out on a chance of a multi-season show because you want to be an asshole, and you're surprised. You're giving us the surprise Pikachu face when she has to make a decision on, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to make a living? And that's what happened. And honestly, I think that was the biggest dick move that you could have done, which was, in my opinion, completely in character for Rick Berman and 90s era Trek. You got the introduction of a new character that we didn't need. We had all these years of buildup of all of these characters, and now you want to just throw one in there and expect to get a backstory on them. There was an episode that involved her family, which was stupid. Like, okay, we know, and I don't fault the writers. They were put in a position where they have to create this, try to take a character. You have all these other characters that have had these arcs, character development on DS9, et cetera, et cetera. So they're all up here. And then you bring in Ezri here, and you feel like, well, we've got to try to at least have some kind of quick, condensed character growth in one season. And it didn't work.
Yeah. And actually, so I'm going to disagree with you on one small point is I actually like the inclusion of Ezri, not Ezri Dax. I agree with you. The whole putting the Dax. Honestly, I feel like they should have put the Dax symbiote in somebody, maybe done an episode. If we went forward with this killing off Dax thing, like killing Jadzia Dax, and then having Dax, the new Dax, right off into the sunset after like 1 or 2 episodes after she has closure with Worf, with Cisco, all of that. I did like the inclusion of Ezri because she was a ship's counselor. She wasn't like a scientist. Like, so honestly, like, yes, and even if they did let Jedzia live, if you have Jedzia go and command a starship out in the Dominion War, then then bring Ezri in as and she doesn't even have to be Trill. She could be some other race. I don't want her to be Betazite because it's a little on the nose, comparison to Counselor Troy. But like I didn't mind Ezri, like the actress, I thought did a good job. But I really I do agree with you. I didn't want Terry Farrell to go anywhere. I wanted her to stay, even if it was a reduced role, which I was fine with. Have her in a couple episodes that season just to bring her back, and like as her convoy or her fleet was heading through, through the Bajor system, heading towards another part of the war. So I mean, but I actually liked Ezri's character and arc, and I just didn't like the fact that they put the Dex symbiote in her. If they had to kill off Jedzia, let whoever was the new symbiote take over, go off, have Ezri come in, and then they could build up stories from there. But that's, as I said, those were like worst case scenarios what we got. They just they kill off Jadzia and then they try to shoehorn in a replacement. And you're right. Like that is one of the most controversial things and one of the biggest detriments to Deep Space Nine, in my opinion. Rick Berman just I just
defending himself.
Yeah. And okay, so yeah, he's in the chat defending himself. Okay, hold on. So we got a couple comments here I want to bring up before okay, I do want to bring this is up from the last one, and I wanted to talk about this. When Picard rushed to get his saddle before the Barian sweep, it wasn't for a horse. Picard has a kink. So that's back when we were talking about Major, or not Major, Luoxana and Picard. Okay. Colin. The TLD. Hello, welcome to the stream. He says they did Dax dirty in DS9, and yes, they did. Colin Barrett, welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for being here. Made worse by the fact that Colomini was able to work on other projects while filming DS9. This is true. Rick B said, of course, he's here defending himself. Berman was looking. He talks about himself in the third person too.
That's how. Follow yourself.
Berman was looking out for his own show. He wanted to finish DS9 and not be a part-time character. Nothing wrong with that. And he's right. No one remembers her for the Ted Danson show. Yeah, but everybody remembers the fact that they screwed Jedzia at the end of season 6.
Yes.
I'm sorry. That was the wrong call. Listen, Berman. All right. Let me get through these and then we'll talk more about maybe some of these comments. We did get Nicole de Boyer out of the deal. I enjoyed Worf. Watching Worf. You enjoyed Worf watching Worf? Ooh, Worf on Worf action. Deal with the loss of Jedzia, but not Dax. And that's what I'm saying. It was a bit interesting. Like that was kind of interesting, but it was wrong. Like it was in the wrong place, the wrong time. It was good character development for Worf, but at the same time, I would have gladly traded that off for having Jedzia in a part-time role for that season.
Yeah, and that's Nicole DeBoer that played Ezri Dax.
Okay.
And yeah, the whole thing with, like I said, the writers did a lot of good with the situation that they were given. I think that is that was a big thing as a spouse, as a husband, as Worf. How do you deal with your wife? I mean, this isn't the first time that Worf has gotten involved with someone that's gotten killed in a romantic relationship. Of course, you have Kalar. Now you have Dax. So the symbiote that your wife had, all the experiences, all the memories, is put into another person, and that's the problem. That's the issue with trying to have a relationship with a Trill, is you run into that whole problem because he's lost a wife, and now here comes this this woman that, for all intents and purposes, is kind of Jadzia. I mean, she's Curzon, Jadzia. What were some of the other hosts?
I don't remember. Off the top of my
Drawing
head, I don't
blanks.
remember. Yeah.
So how Worf dealt with that whole thing was interesting. That was good, but you don't introduce a new main character in season 7. You just.
I mean, I wouldn't have mind Ezri being like a part timer, you know,
or not at all. Not
well, okay. I mean,
not
as I
have
said,
a character.
as I said, I think DS9 did a wonderful job with all of their side characters, like, you know, with Nog, with Garrick. Honestly, I think if you threw another side character at them, I think they would have done a great job with it. As I said, if you have to have somebody to fill that void with, like, let's say best case scenario, Jadzia becomes a part timer and she goes off, like, and she's doing her own thing, you know, like, or Jadzia is doing, you know, commanding her own ship, so she's not on every week. So you kind of have to have that. I feel like you need to fill that void of that character hole, and I don't feel like Garrick or Nog could have done that because they're just. I don't think they could have filled that void. I felt, and honestly and truly, I really think that with female representation the way it was in the 90s, I felt like it needed to be another lady. You know, I did not mind, as I said, I did not mind the inclusion of the character Ezri. The fact that she had the Dex symbiote and all that other, like, that's what made it a little bit tumultuous for me, just because I was like, yeah, this is definitely shoehorned in and it sucks. And yeah, Rick B says, I like Nicole DeBoer as Esri Dax. It refreshed the character and it was fun watching her interact with Worf. You know, as I said, and I think Jefferson is right that I think I think the writers did a phenomenal job. I think Rick Berman just dropped his dookie in the front yard and then walked away and let the writers clean it up.
Yes, that's like exactly what happened.
So I mean, you can't even, like, as I said, for as much as we like Ezri, like, as I said, I didn't mind Ezri. You cannot credit Rick Berman for any of that, in my opinion.
Not any of it, not one bit. No, none.
Yeah, no, Rick Berman was just, yeah, I don't know. I can't with him. Okay, and then Colin Barrett says Worf seems quite taken with Raffi and Star Trek Picard. Something to think about if Star Trek Legacy gets made. I don't really want. I don't know. I don't want another Worf romance. I'm sorry.
No, I'm done with Worf romance.
I'm honestly, I'm not even. I wasn't on board with like Seven and Raffi only because it was shoehorned in at the end of season 1. It didn't really work out that well in season 2. Like, it was not that they did not have that great of chemistry in season 2, and season 3, I mean, it wasn't even there. Like, Raffi was on her own path and Seven was on her path, and I did like the interaction. But here's the thing: you don't need a relationship. Like, just because you have a female and a male character does not mean, and they have good chemistry, does not mean they have to be in a relationship. Yes,
but how do you get your woke points? You got to get your woke points.
What? Yeah, well, whatever.
But we got to be woke, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have some kind of relationship, and bonus if it's two people,
two African American. Well, technically, Worf's not African American, but you know what I mean. Like,
two females or two males. You know, yeah, you got to get your woke points, right? I'm being sarcastic,
I know you are. Hopefully, and I'm pretty sure everybody out there. Rick B says, "Stop hating me." I'm sorry, man, but you know, just quit dropping your dookies in front yards and having writers clean it up.
You know what? I'm really glad that Rick brought up his favorite, Alex Kurtzman, because there's some controversy in the Alex Kurtzman time. Kurtzman was involved in the first season of Discovery. I know it started out with Andrew Fuller.
Yeah, but I think Alex Kurtzman was executive producer. Wasn't he?
Yeah. The Klingons. You want to talk about a hell of a Kurtzman era controversy? What in the hell were they thinking with the Klingons? Now let me qualify that with I I didn't at first. I thought it was a little too much, but on further reflection, and I've said this over the years, I don't have a problem with where they went with the Klingons at the start of Discovery. And the argument that I always make to anyone that has a problem with how the Klingons looked the first couple seasons of Discovery is the fact that look inward, look at here, the people of Earth. We have so many different races that look so different from each other. We are not a homogenous species. The Klingons don't have to be either. There's nothing wrong with it. I think that we can. Klingons can look like TOS Klingons. Klingons can look like the 90s era. Klingons can look like the first couple seasons of Discovery. There are, I'm sure, lots of different looking Klingons, just like there are for humans.
And I would agree with you, because that was kind of one of my points in Discovery season 1 was I wish they would have made the Discovery Klingons like a nomadic they isolate themselves from the Klingon Empire. The problem is that when you like saw all the houses when they had that kind of like gathering,
Yep,
they all look like
that was the opportunity to make it clean.
Yeah, and they could have just had like TOS, like they could have had a couple houses looking like TOS Klingons, and I would have been 100% fine with that. If that's the way they handled it, they said, "Oh no, these Klingons are like isolationists. They weren't a part of any of the genetic stuff because they've been isolationists for over 100 years or whatever, since before that episode of Enterprise." I would have given them an immediate pass. I would have been like, "That is perfect. I love it. Go for it."
You had the opportunity right there in front of you with that scene to have shown the diversity of different Klingon houses or tribes. You could have shown TOS Klingons. You could have had some TNG Klingons. You could have had the Discovery Klingons. You could have had another set of completely different looking Klingons.
Mm-hmm.
You had it right there. It was right there in front of you. You could have appeased everyone with one short scene, but no, you had to be stupid. You put your stupid hat on that day and decided, let's just be stupid. And that's what we got.
Let me read a couple comments and then we'll go to Mage really quick if he has anything to add. Yes, you did. We don't need Alex Kurtzman doing Worf romance storyline. He'll probably make him gay. I doubt it, but if whoever's writing it makes him gay, then they write it well.
No, there's no writing that well. You just don't do it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
There are just things you don't do. I know I was sarcastically talking about woke points earlier, but there are some things that we would not accept Worf being dressed up like a Discovery Klingon any more than we would accept Worf suddenly being written as anything but a cis Klingon male. Just some stuff you should not mess with and tamper with.
Okay.
I said it.
Okay, that's fine. Colin Barrett says Discovery could have made life so much easier for itself by just saying it's a different or altered timeline. It would have, and honestly, we did a whole highly illogical podcast talking about this. We actually, me and Mage talked about the fact that we think that Discovery is a part of the First Contact timeline. And just, if you want to go watch that podcast, it basically what happened is, there's the Kelvin timeline, the Prime timeline, and then when Picard and them went back in time, they started the First Contact timeline, which then starts over. But Enterprise is also a part of the First Contact timeline, as well as Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and as we are progressing. So,
yes.
So I mean, as I said,
buy that.
Yeah, it's headcanon, but it doesn't bother me much. It explains some of the differences too.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense because if you've I was about to back that up with, excuse me, with some beta canon, which I know doesn't really count, but there is some beta canon that that supports your idea of the fact that there's a first contact timeline.
Mhm. And I mean,
And
I'm not the one who originated that idea. I saw it from somebody else. Like somebody else had mentioned it, and that's why me and Mage did the podcast, because we wanted to
it's
to talk
interesting.
and dive into it more. So, okay. So Daniel Vance says, if you read the novelization, you were already aware of Klingons that look different and why. Well, that kind of goes back to beta canon. It's like,
Well, there's also that.
Oh,
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Mage.
Sorry.
No.
Go
You
ahead.
go ahead. I wanted to hear from you.
Well, we'll circle back to my point about DS9 that I was going to make, but as far as the Klingons looking different, we have the bit of Enterprise lore about the augment virus that explains a good bit of differentiation in Klingon appearances as far as ridges, no ridges.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, one step further is removed sect or isolated tribe, what have you, with extreme ridges like Discovery. And I've never heard that point you made about the council meeting having all of them represented, Jefferson, but I love that idea. I think that would have fixed a lot of the problems like you were saying. As for DS9, the reason why I feel like everybody hated it so much when we got Ezri Dax was because that was such an ensemble cast. And so you remove the one player in the form of Jadzia Dax, and everybody else's dynamic is kind of shifted and off. And they've spent 6 seasons building these interpersonal dynamics in a way that no Trek had ever been as bold to form these sorts of the real interpersonal dynamics that are born from character conflict and breaking the prime Roddenberry rule of no interpersonal conflict.
But yeah.
So it was really screwed the pooch when they ran off Terry Farrell and had to bring in Ezri Dax. And I can see your point about having just Ezri as the new counselor and not having them as a Dax symbiont. Cheeto, I like that idea a lot too.
Gotcha.
But that's what I had to say.
So I got a comment from Christine, who is one of our contributors here. She's actually watching, but she said YouTube won't let her comment. So
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
That's odd.
Unless she doesn't have a YouTube account, maybe that's why.
Yeah, you got to be logged in your YouTube account.
Yeah. You don't even have to compare the human race to see diversity in looks. Just in China alone, you get so many different types of people and so many types of facial structures, skin tones, etc. So, I mean, and going back to the Klingon thing, but yeah, I mean, but that is a good point with Jefferson. I think actually they really only hit that probably in Enterprise when you had the Enar and the Andorians, like that starkly different, like dynamic of sect of a race, lineage of a race, because the Enar were like pale white and they were blind, but they were more telepathic, and but they still obviously looked more or less Andorian, but they were different skin tone and everything like that. So no, I mean, but I think Enterprise was kind of, I'm trying to think of another, because like with the Klingons, all Klingons were just Klingons, all Romulans were just Romulans. I mean, I guess with the Vulcans, I mean, yes, you come Voyager, you had a black Vulcan, which was, I think, the first time we had seen a black Vulcan before. I believe that is. I don't think we had any others in like the original or in the.
I think you're right.
TNG, like I think all Vulcans that were on that show were portrayed as white. So, I don't.
I could not jump out and say you're 100% correct. I have a feeling that we might be a little off. I can't place it. Something tells me that No, we saw there was a Vulcan of color that we saw before Tuvok, but don't don't quote me on that. And even in Picard, they addressed how different Romulans looked from, you know, you had your Romulans from TNG, the 90s era, and then you have the Romulans that were from the uh, oh geez, I'm drunk. They had like they had two different looks for Romulans. First season of Picard, remember? And
Mm-hmm.
there was a line made that he's one of those Northerners,
Yeah.
and that's why. So yeah, I mean they can make smart choices when they want to
Oh, go ahead.
about explaining those things.
Just what I'm looking at, it looks like Tuvok was the first. Tuvok was the first Black Vulcan.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely was. I could have swore there's some Vulcan at some point before Tuvok that was played by a non-white actor, but I could be wrong.
Well, okay. Rick B says there was everything wrong with Star Trek Discovery Kling orcs. I mean, again, I think I do think that the Klingons were a bit extreme in Discovery, but I don't feel like that was a problem. Like I feel like they were like the extreme looking versions of Klingons. But again, I don't think it was a problem. I think that they were just different looking Klingons.
They're
more
way
rugged.
There's way worse things going on with season 1 of Discovery than the appearance of the Klingons.
Yes.
If you want to go down to brass tacks. I'm sorry to cut you off. That's my bad.
No. Listen, you can cut me off. I talk too much anyway. You know this. If they did the Kling orcs like Cheeto said, that would have justified their change, but that's expecting too much from Alex Kurtzman. Okay, another dig at Kurtzman, sure. Star Trek Discovery is part of the poop timeline. Okay. I'm in the predestination paradox boat. Okay. The timeline altered in Star Trek Enterprise. Xindi attack on Earth was not supposed to happen. Would also have fitted nicely. I didn't have an issue with the Xindi with the Xindi attack on Earth.
No.
I mean, it wasn't mentioned before, but it's not like there was ever any real reason to bring it up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but we could also use that as a thing to say that's part of why it's first contact timeline.
Yeah. And that could be too, as I said. I mean, but I never had an issue with the Xindi assault on attack on Earth being a part of the prime timeline. It is literally like 200 years removed from TNG.
We don't talk every day about things that happened 200 years ago. When was the last time me and you had a conversation about the French-American War, Cheeto?
I was about to say, or the Trail of Tears.
The French-Indian War. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like I mean, that's not mentioned really at all unless we literally are bringing up something that happened 200 years ago. Okay. Colin Barrett says it was obvious in Discovery that the writers were completely ignored Star Trek bibliography. Maybe, but I still think there was so sometimes, and I'm not going to tangent on this too much, but sometimes a departure from the fanboy mentality is not a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, we want people to honor the Star Trek bibliography, but at the same time, sometimes that's to its own detriment, and sometimes that really stifles creativity.
It's the spirit of the show that's what's important, not the sticking points or finer minutia. The appearance of the consoles, or how slick or not slick the handles look, or if there are buttons. If it makes a reel-to-reel noise, those aren't the important things. What matters is the core of the message of inclusivity and just hoping for a better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. The TLD says the Remans and the Romulans. That is correct. Yes. Although the Remans has always been weird to me because it says the Remans were on the moon of Romulus.
No, there were two Class M planets. In the Romulus system. Yes.
That's
Romulus and Remus.
I think they should have been from a completely different system that the Romulans conquered. Like I just that was just my opinion. Like that's one thing that always bugged me. Another tangent we could probably talk about is like it's the Federation is this conglomerate of races, but the Klingon Empire is like only Klingons, and the Romulans are only Romulans. Like you really don't see like because they've said I'm sure in beta canon or in the novelization that the Klingons and Romulans have subjugated other minor races that they have come across, but they don't ever talk about that. They don't even ever look at that. You know what I mean? Like we only see Romulans, we only see Klingons, and like Klingon space is huge if you look at a galactic map so it's
It's
like,
probably just never been important enough to bring up or to mention, unfortunately.
yeah.
Unless you follow Star Trek Online, where the Gorn and Orions are subject species to the Klingon Empire. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Mm-hmm. I forgot that the Gorn were subject to the Klingon Empire. That's true. Rick B says he was the first Black Vulcan on screen. That's probably why you hate it so much, Rick B.
Whoa!
He would Rick B would have been okay if Tuvok was in a cat suit. Daniel Vance says some Vulcans look like Romulans. Some even look like Mark Leonard from Earth. Okay.
The individual that played Sarek and the
I know. Yeah, there's
good one.
Yeah, what was it? Why do I always forget the name of this episode? Balance of Terror, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Balance of Terror.
Okay. And Rick B, of course, I disagree. You need the heart of Star Trek and stick to the established canon. Alex Kurtzman screwed up, and that is why Star Trek tenure is a massive failure. Uh-huh. And then Rick B says, I love Tim Russ. Well, okay.
We can agree on that.
Yeah, we can agree on that. Christine just had two comments really quick. It says, yeah, she was just talking about her. She's signed in. I'm really enjoying your content. Well, thank you very much for being here, Christine.
Yeah.
Love having you here. Hopefully, maybe in the future you can join us. And also, Christine says we don't talk about we don't talk every day about 9/11, which is true. Like we don't, but I feel like 9/11 is still relatively current compared to, compared from TNG to like.
It's a very apt comparison because that was completely the analog and the allegory they were making at the time with the whole season.
It was.
Yeah.
Which is why I love Enterprise. It's a time capsule. It's the most highly allegorical of the series, and I feel like that's like part of the core of what Trek is that morality play, allegory episode sort of thing.
Colin Barrett says, I had no problem with Discovery being different and its own thing. The problem was they tried to force fit it into Star Trek universe in a way it did not fit. And I am not disagreeing with the fact that yes, Discovery did take some liberties that did not really fit in the established Star Trek, not mythos, but like Star Trek feel. You know what I mean? Without Burnham being Spock's half sister and being a prequel, Discovery would have made a brilliant late 25th century Star Trek story. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I'm not totally on board with Discovery season 1 and 2. I am not sitting here trying to defend Discovery season 1 and 2. But I do believe that Discovery made a excellent choice in going into the 32nd century in the end of season 2. And I really believe that we wouldn't have gotten Strange New Worlds if we wouldn't have gotten Discovery season 1 and especially Discovery season 2.
Right.
So I feel like, and I've gone back and actually just recently rewatched Discovery season 1 and 2. Well, mostly season 1. I'm kind of like in the beginning of season 2 right now. But watching Discovery season 1, the only mistake in my opinion that they made was yes, the Burnham being Spock's half sister. Yeah, it is
adopted sister.
Sorry, yes, it is a bit stupid. It is a bit, like not really needed.
Would you go as far to say it's an ass pull?
Oh yeah, that. But here I can counter that point though also with the ass pull of Mariner being really good friends with what's her face from the what was her name?
Yeah, it's
Um,
about the same thing.
Yeah.
yeah, like in the
Oh
in the
God,
in the recent
yes.
episodes of Lower
Yeah,
Decks. What was her
where
name?
you coined
Cedo
the phrase
Jackson.
Yeah.
Ceto. Yes, where you coined the phrase.
There's this thing with Star Trek where uh, there's this big blanket, a big JoJo blanket of comfort that you want to try to put around yourself if you can. And Discovery would have been a great, uh, late 25th century or whatever century show. The problem was is that you have the TOS time frame, you have the established Trek canon that you want to wrap yourself around. Let's have Discovery take place before Kirk and Spock. Oh, I mean, before the Enterprise, but not so far before that we can't talk about the Enterprise. We can have the Enterprise in there if we want. We can cheat and do Spock. We can have this. We can have it. It was all let's be able to have all of these things that we can use to tie in to Trek, so that we have our easy button. And that's why you didn't start with a show that began outside of established canon, because you wanted that comfort blanket. You wanted to be able to snuggle right into uh, being able to use other parts of Star Trek that have already been established. They didn't want to get out of that comfort zone.
Mhm. No, and I agree. As I said, Discovery season 1 and 2 is a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? Like it is. So the Mirror Universe episodes are some of my favorite episodes of that season. Like I love the Mirror Universe. I loved it in DS9. I love the Enterprise episodes of it. I like the Discovery, or I really love the Discovery episode. I mean, Emperor Georgiou. I mean, come on, like she is, or Empress Georgiou. Sorry, she is like pinnacle bad guy in Star Trek. And I'm very happy she'll be in the Section 31 movie. But at the same time, I felt the loss in season 4 of her. You know,
I I agree with Daniel Vance. We need more Captain Killy.
Commander Killy. Yeah, that's right.
We need more Captain Killy.
That's what I was
Absolutely.
hoping in season 4 we would go back to the Mirror Universe at least for an episode or two. Like I was liking the fact that Discovery might have started to adopt like DS9 had that one episode every season where they go to the Mirror Universe.
Well, but the reason being is because there was basically the Mirror Universe and Prime Universe were in a constant state of divergence.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time you got to the by the time we got to the 32nd century,
It was too far apart, and it was pulling. Yeah,
it was too far apart. And the was it Kovac was the guy's name, said that at that point there hadn't been a divergence a crossover in like several hundred years.
mm-hmm.
Uh, Something like that. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big. I mean, the Mirror Universe. Like, how the hell do you get anything done? People are always trying to kill each other. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean,
Can't
it's
get
the
shit done.
Klingon
That's why it
Empire.
Trying to kill
implodes.
you.
That's why it implodes.
Yeah.
So Rick B, of course, saying that no one wants Section 31 movie, which I think you are alone in that. I want a Section 31 movie. Honestly, I feel like if Discovery season 1 was called Section 31, it would have been fine. I mean, we had and then season 2 also, because we had several Section 31 influences in that. I feel like if Discovery was just a Section 31 show, it would have been fine in the first 2 seasons.
The old dark aesthetic would make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The TLD says that Gul Dukat is the best Star Trek villain. He is definitely one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Probably in my top 3. I'd have to figure it out. And maybe he might even be number 1 if I sit down and think about it. We'll see more Mirror Universe in Section 31. Well, let's hope. I like the Mirror Universe. I like what they did with it in Discovery. And honestly, I like what they did with Lorca, like him being from the Mirror Universe, parading as a Starfleet captain. So
Yeah.
So spoiler alert. Huh? Oh yeah. Moving Discovery to the 32nd century was a great idea. The burn, not so much. I didn't mind the burn. I thought that was a great, like.
I thought the burn
that
was good.
It's a
I thought
good
the burn was good. I
conflict.
thought that the end was kind of lackluster. Like,
Yes, the cause of the burn and what it ended up being were bad, but the whole concept of it and the way it shook up the status quo and flipped the whole script of warp travel, I feel like was a great concept.
The way they explained how it happened was perfect. Scientific, made sense. Love how they explained it. I don't know what I wanted though. I don't think it was that. It was a great explanation as to why a kid screaming destroyed thousands of starships in the galaxy, millions of lives. Perfect explanation, but I don't know what I wanted. I don't know that that's what I wanted it to have been the reason.
I think it should have been Iconian technology. I think it should have been Iconian technology that got in the wrong hands. And
yeah, they wanted, it was a big scale problem that they wanted to personalize too much, personalize it down to someone you could look right at and point at and say, you caused the burn.
yeah, I didn't like that. Like,
It funneled to, it was a deeper funnel than it needed to be.
yeah, as I said, I think it should have been Iconian technology.
Yeah.
That, because the only thing of the Iconians we really have outside of beta canon is the portals. It's like, it would have been cool to kind of see another piece of Iconian technology that kind of surfaced that also has galactic ramifications, and honestly might have even been one of the reasons why the Iconians went extinct. Like maybe they screwed up warp travel, with, maybe this is like the second burn. Like maybe the first burn happened with the first Iconians and the Iconian Empire fell apart and they just died off. Maybe that's what, and then, over the centuries, 1,000 years, something like that, from the Iconian Empire, the universe healed itself, and then people could start using warp travel again, as other races developed it. But it was kind of like this wipe and repeat from the Iconians. So I know we were kind of like way off topic at this point.
Yeah, back to controversies, behind the scenes
controversies. I was actually going to say, I mean, either that or what we can do is we can talk about controversies, or we can just finish up some of these comments and then maybe come back for a part 2 next week. I did have a video for next week, but maybe we can bench that out another week. And if we feel like there's more to talk about,
that sounds good, because we could throw in the Kate Mulgrew and Jerry Ryan controversy.
There's also apparently Kate Mulgrew I'm sorry, not Kate Mulgrew, Jerry Ryan and Brandon Braga were in a relationship. See, these are things I don't know.
Original Janeway casting and Kate Mulgrew replacing her. There's a whole then we got Manny Koto being too late to the party, and I would say one of the biggest controversies is just canceling Enterprise before its time.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
next week
I feel like next week we could do a part 2 if we really.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so let's go through the rest of these comments, answer some of these questions, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay. Let's go to Rick B here. He says Section 31 having their own ships and badges is stupid. I agree. That's why I'm saying Discovery should have been a Section 31 show, so that it made sense that they have their own badges and stuff on their own section. Like, Discovery should have been a Section 31 ship. You know what I mean? Like an experimental stealth, like, ship. That's what I feel. Would that have been a good place for that show? No. I feel like we should have started with a different type of Star Trek show. But I think Strange New Worlds should have been the first Star Trek show back, honestly. You know what I mean? Or I don't think Picard. I think Picard would have killed it before it all started. Okay. I'm looking forward to Section 31. I'm a bit apprehensive about Starfleet Academy. I am too.
Starfleet Academy still happening?
It is. Well, so far the Paramount might be sold off, so maybe not. Anything can change at this point. I just don't like the time period. I don't want Starfleet Academy to be in the 32nd century. I want Starfleet Academy to take place in the 25th century.
30 seconds perfect though. Think about it, because you're rebuilding
Yeah, but
Starfleet.
I don't want it to be the first class of Starfleet of the new Starfleet Academy. I want it to be like an established Starfleet. If anyone's ever played that the old Starfleet Academy game,
Yeah.
which I have, I love that game. I thought that game was very well executed. Check out my Let's Play on Milquetoast Gaming. I have a whole Star Trek playlist.
Oh, nice self plug.
Nice self plug. But yeah, I think that I think that that it being the 25th century would be nice. I don't want it to be in the TOS era just because we have too much going on in the TOS era right now, in my
Correct.
opinion.
Too much.
And I know, like, we do need something else in the 32nd century because I do want to see this universe progress.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if I wanted it through the lens of I didn't honestly, I wouldn't have minded, and I'm gonna recycle one of my ideas. I wouldn't mind if they did Federation 1. You know, like we were talking about, remember the you got when we were talking about was it new shows, or I don't remember, but we were talking about doing like a presidential, like a West Wing show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
But that
you know,
would still be something that would we were talking about that as a 32nd century show. That would still be
and they
more of
clone
a fit
Scott
there.
Bakula and bring Scott Bakula, Scott Bakula's, Archer to the 32nd century, and then no, I'm kidding.
No, he just leapt there.
Yeah, he just leapt there. There we go.
Boo.
Cross the streams.
Yes. And Sam Beckett never returned home.
That's because he went to the future, became the president of the Federation.
Right.
Rick B says the burn was stupid too. I mean, whatever. I mean, you can think whatever you want. The burn made no scientific sense. Honestly, I don't remember enough to know if it made scientific, but Jefferson said it scientifically made sense, so I believe him because Jefferson is a nice guy. A child.
You can believe me. I'm not full of hate and vitriol over one section of Star Trek show. If you really listen to the explanation and look past just how much you don't like how someone ran or produced Star Trek, they made a very reasonable, made sense explanation of it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been far worse. I mean,
Yeah.
the techno explanations we've gotten in Star Trek have been far worse.
Yeah.
So I mean, as I said, the techno babble and the techno sense doesn't honestly bug me as much a lot of times as it does, and it can get under my skin, but it's like transporters, like they're murder machines. If you really boil it down, like anytime you transport, that person is dead, and then the new person that comes on the pad is somebody completely different. But it doesn't matter because it's a TV show,
Right?
That we're sitting here talking about and getting passionate about. Rick B says, "I love Kate Mulgrew." No surprise there. You like your woman with buns. Also says, "I want to start." No one wants the Starfleet Academy show. Okay, whatever. Colin Barrett says, "Huh."
I like this. I like what Colin Barrett has
Starfleet
to
Academy
say.
would be ideal as an anthology series encompassing all time. I don't disagree with you.
It's Tilly telling lectures to her class at that 32nd century Starfleet Academy. That's the framing device, but we get to see all different time periods and do an anthology.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I like that, but yeah, I mean, no, I don't like that idea. I'm just gonna be honest.
Okay.
Which is okay. I'm probably wrong. I mean, you all know me. I usually am wrong anyway. Rick B says nothing is worse than the burn scientifically. Okay.
Accept your opinions.
Yeah. I'd like to just like scientifically burn all your opinions, just like all of one time wipe them out. Our transporters like
He means Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but they kind of, because they're not that uncertainty principle kind of thing, or don't revolve around observation. It's just the whole, when it makes a copy of you, but the original you never comes back, I think is Cheeto's argument.
Yeah, I mean, and as I said, it just the debate of does a person have a soul or not? You know what I mean? Like, how can a computer quantify a soul?
Yeah, how can it know the exact arrangement of the electrical impulses in your brains firing between the neurons that make up your memories and your thought patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a whole lot more than just the DNA and cell structure.
Yeah. And I mean, if they're born again, I mean, how does Jesus transport with them? I mean, Rick B,
Not
you will
touching
lose
that with a 10-foot pole.
Rick B. Oh, I am. Rick B, you stand in the transporter, man. You're gonna have to. You're gonna lose your Holy Spirit, buddy. All right. Colin Barrett says, of course, calling it the burn did nothing to help Star Trek Discovery
The
jokes.
STD jokes.
STD. Oh yeah. Okay, I get it. Daniel Vance says that's why I store myself in a pattern buffer and have myself mailed long distance. It's the only way to pure transport.
Like sending Nirmal to Abu Dhabi.
Christine also has a couple comments here. She says, if you go in on to Discovery and watch it like no other Star Trek ever existed, it's really good on its own. And if you do it in that way, you're not distracted by the timeline, previous storylines, etc., and then you can just enjoy it as a standalone piece. And I mean, that's kind of the issue that you run into with any big franchise like Star Trek, MCU, Star Wars. Like you run into that issue everywhere. Like you either go ahead.
It gets in its own way.
Yeah, it gets in its own way
Mm-hmm.
rather than letting it tell the story. And as I said, there are some things about Discovery that are good and that are not good. But no, that the fans, like, look at Star Wars fans, like they just get in their own way all the time. I mean, everybody knows I am not a fan of Star Wars fans. Like I just Star Wars fans are the worst in my opinion. They are stupid because they hound actors about roles that they played in a movie.
No, Final Fantasy fans are worse because they harass voice actors over ships that they invented in their own heads, in their own fandom. Like, the Final Fantasy fans are worse, bro.
Yeah, but
like,
the Star
they're the
Wars
same
fandom
ilk.
is bigger.
It's bigger, but bigger's not necessarily better.
That's
or
not what
worse.
she said.
Or
Yeah, it's not what she said.
walked right into that.
Come on, man, Mirror Mage. You don't have that's what
He's
she
not-
said jokes over there.
No, this is the lame universe.
Christine has a comment basically says you have the Academy episodes bounce back and forth between the centuries as individual shows, like you were saying, Mage. So Christine was in agreement with you. I don't know if she posted that before or after you said that, but I wouldn't mind them having like each season being like a different like graduating class. Like, you know, like call it Starfleet Academy, but then call it like 2404, you know, like, and then the next season being like Star Trek Academy 3291 or something, like, you know, like,
Okay.
like, you know, like each season's kind of like a different, it would be a different era, but it's each season is a different era, you know, and you get
like
different
an
characters.
AHS kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, either that or you know, you could span
anthology show.
You could span 3 whole years in one season if you did it right. I mean, you'd need to give it more than like 10 episodes, but like you really could. Like, you know, you could go through an entire Starfleet Academy career in a season if you gave it a little bit of time, you know, like more than just 10 episodes a year. Okay, we're going to wrap up the last of the comments here. Colin Barrett says, my main regret about Discovery is that a series of great concepts poorly executed. And that is actually a really good way to put it. As I said, there were a lot of good concepts in Discovery, and and a lot of them were poorly executed, you know, or not at least executed to their greatest, you know, the greatest potential. 99.9, yeah. And then we don't need Star Trek 90210. No one will watch it. Well, I mean, no one was watching Rick Berman either, so you know. Okay, so everybody, thank you very much.
Yeah. Good show.
Talk. I know. I'm glad we started to wrap it like 15 minutes ago because I'm like, God, we would have been here forever. We will do a part 2 of this one. So if you have any other controversies or anything you know what? If you know of any controversies that we haven't really mentioned here, or like we didn't mention towards the end when we were kind of blasting through a couple of them, just previewing, leave them down below. We'll talk about them. I do want to talk about Shatner and Takei. I do want to. I did a little bit of research on that.
Oh,
That
yeah.
feud for real, man.
Yeah, that's as I said, TOS had some bangers in there. So anyway, so we'll do a part 2 next week.
Okay.
Next week I was going to do like the greatest memes of all the memes of Star Trek shit posting. I was just gonna like have a huge file just full of memes, and we were just gonna go through them and just
I'll finally have an excuse to make the folders.
Yeah, right.
Phone.
Let's
so
just
I'll
make
get
folders
I probably have 1,000 Star Trek shit posting memes, bro, to send you. Like this is gonna be legit.
I know, right? Like I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and there's 56 messages from me.
I mean,
and each of it's just a meme.
Mm-hmm.
So
you know it.
All right, really quick, Jefferson, thank you very much for joining me. Where can everyone find you? I know and the links are down below.
You can find Beyond Trek Podcast at starfleetpodcast.net/Beyond Trek. Check out our website and you'll find our social medias there, especially our YouTube channel, where you can see all of our past interviews, reviews, reactions, etc. It's a lot of fun. So thanks as always for having me on here. I like coming on to your show.
And if you guys haven't subscribed over there at Beyond Trek Podcast, please do. I mean, he comes here and he joins us every week, but they also have a great channel over there. So if you guys have not, there is a link in the description. I have it permanently on this podcast. So, even if he's not here, we have it in there.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And also I believe, and if it's not, I will correct it, but I also believe you are a part of one of our, contributing sites, whatever, like Friends or whatever, that list of channels that are, on our YouTube page. So
perhaps
like on YouTube pages, they have that one where you can like have a bunch of like channels listed.
Like affiliate channels?
I'm not sure about that. You have to.
If it's not there, I will make sure it's there tonight. But
okay.
So you guys will be able to see them there. But yeah, definitely. Major Rage. Where can they find you at? Where can they find the real Major Rage at? Not this Mirror Mage at.
The real Major Rage with the beard and all that. He is over at Twitch TV, Facebook, Twitter, and his own YouTube, all at Major Rage TV.
Yep, and I know that yours is on our friends and whatever friend. It's whatever that section is on the YouTube page where you can add like other channels to click on.
Well, the real mage, I'm sure, appreciates that.
We don't want no mirror mage.
I'm an ungrateful mirror prick, and I don't appreciate it at all.
And just really quick before we go, how about a Rick Burnham? Oh, a Rick Burnham. Oh, is that is that like a gender swap of
Yeah, it's a male Michael Burnham.
Yeah, male Michael Burnham is the Rick Burnham appreciation show. I don't think we're going to do that. If anything, that would probably turn into a Rick Berman bash show. So anyway, with that,
we'll have a Bo Burnham show instead.
Yeah.
With all that being said, everybody, thank you very much for joining me. Please like this video. Consider subscribing to NerdTube, the greatest YouTube channel you kind of maybe sort of heard of. We will catch you in the next one. Live long and prosper. Let's warp speed ahead. I don't know. Whatever. Bye-bye.